In 2013, when it was still as I started to pick up with the plugin development, I was actually developing in my bedroom, and every time I had something like this video conference, I had to try to hide the bed so that people couldn't see. Actually, playing back the sounds and editing the sound effects for this show was done with Acoustica, and that was the first time it was actually used for something meaningful. Seeing users use the software that you have made and being happy with it is the best feeling. You just have to change your mindset, I think, just to ignore when people say it's impossible. You just have to try after all. And if you listen to people, you want to be able to develop anything new at all, so you just have to trust your instincts. I'm really interested in audio technology, as you might know, and that interest originates from interest in music and computers as a kid.
Hello everybody, today we're here in another episode of Meet the Programmers. Today we're talking to Stian Aagedal. I don't know if I said that correctly. Stian, you're going to probably correct me, but...
It's Stian Aagedal, if you want to say it the Norwegian way, yeah.
And he's from Acon Digital, a company out of Norway. And he's here today. We're going to find out a little bit about him, how he became a programmer, what the company's all about, and about some of the products and what they plan to do in the future. So, Stian, welcome.
Thank you.
And how are you doing? Is it sunny Norway at this time?
Actually, we had some really nice days now, like 4 or 5 really sunny summer days, so we're happy.
Excellent. So tell us about yourself, Stian. Who are you?
Well, I'm really interested in audio technology, as you might know, and that interest originates from interest in music and computers as a kid. Did the normal stuff, played in the school band, the trumpet, and had my computer on the side that I started programming with. And 2 hobbies emerged into one, so to say. So I started programming software for audio recording really early, before there were any sound cards available. My brother actually bought this ADDA converter that was meant for industrial use, actually, and we kind of hacked that to make a small software sampler, and that was the beginning.
So when you say you started with computers and music early, how early did you start in music?
Yeah, I was 8 when I got the trumpets.
Any of the parents did the music?
Yeah, well, the whole family plays, actually. My mother plays the accordion, my father, he's passed away now, but he played the clarinet, and yeah, my sister and my brother both played the school band too, so yeah, everybody played an instrument at that time.
Which computer did you start on? Could you remember what computer that was?
Yeah, sure, that was an Oric 1, a really special computer from the UK that not many people had, actually. That was part of the reason why I got into programming at all, because there weren't any games like my friends that got the VIC-20 and the Commodore 64 afterwards. They had all these amazing games, but for the Oric 1 there wasn't really much to get, so we had to start programming ourselves.
And what was your programming back in those days? It's basic?
It's basic, yeah, exactly.
Describe those early days of programming on those computers.
It was like testing what we can achieve. I was really interested in graphics, actually, at that time, so I tried to make these small games and paint programs, and also just buying magazines where I had these programs printed out and typing them into the computer, all those kind of things that were popular then, and you learn a lot from that stuff, actually, so it's a good kind of education, I suppose, but nothing that anybody would do today.
Right. And I imagine a lot of trial and error and trial and error and trial and error.
Sure, you have to be really patient, actually.
What do you think drove your interest in computers?
I think it's just something you have in you. I'm really interested in technical things, natural sciences, those kind of things. So yeah, and at that time there was so much enthusiasm and optimism about technology and all these cool gadgets that were coming. It just drove my interest.
Mm-hmm. And so you now combine these two into music and technology. Did you play in any bands as a teenager?
Yes, we had like a small group from the school band that, and we played some jazz music and also like brass ensembles. and stuff like that. So yeah.
And so you're playing in a band. Did you guys ever do any recording?
No, we didn't actually. At that time, what I was doing for recording on the computer wasn't high fidelity enough to actually to do recording that would sound nice. So we didn't try that actually. That was much later. As I said, this was before Sound Blaster and anything. So you can imagine if you heard the Sound Blaster recording, that wasn't high fidelity either. So yeah, it wasn't really useful for that reason. But I started with MIDI sequencing, and I had a little keyboard that I used with a small drum computer, and I made some music with that.
Did you write music as an adolescent?
Well, I tried to, let's say. I made some intentions, yeah.
So what did you do with the sequencer?
Well, I did play the piano too when I was a bit older, so I just played in some tunes and I started making some beats to it and had fun with it and made some music, but it wasn't. Calling it composing might be a bit too.
Well, that's why it's perhaps why you're a programmer.
Exactly.
So tell me a little bit about the journey to becoming somebody that writes music software. How did that happen?
I had this project with this recording software, which actually turned into Acoustica 1.0 in, I think that was 1994. And it was made public, it didn't sell anything, but it was available. Then I started studying and put it a bit on the side. And after a couple of years, this internet boom started. I thought, okay, let's put up a website and improve the software a bit and try again. And then Acoustica 2 was launched, and that actually picked up. And so it just grew from there, actually.
Mm-hmm. So Acoustica was the first software that you wrote in terms of a commercial product.
Yeah, that's true. I had some intentions earlier with this recording software, but it wasn't nothing suitable for a commercial project.
Now, at that time, Acoustica is a stereo device.
Exactly.
And what were some of the features that were in Acoustica, the very early version?
Well, you had kind of the same stuff, like an equalizer and a reverb. It sounded terrible, but less a reverb. And it even had some proprietary plugin system, so you could write like dynamic link libraries and load them. So all of that was actually implemented in Acoustica.
And so now you have Acoustica, it records. I'm always curious as to how you feel, the first time you see, somebody else use your product. Could you describe the first time you saw somebody else use it and their reaction? How did that make you feel?
Well, that feels great actually. Just seeing users use the software that you have made and being happy with it is the best feeling. So I think the first time I saw that was something like high school. We had this cabaret thing, and we did the sound effects were controlled with Acoustica, and we had a huge mixing desk and everything. Actually, playing back the sounds and editing the sound effects for this show was done with Acoustica, and that was the first time it was actually used for something meaningful.
What were the most difficult things about developing software, in particular Acoustica, for you as a young person?
Getting something that's stable enough to make people happy. That's probably the trickiest part, and supporting all kind of platforms, deploying the software, and so especially on Windows, we have so many different configurations. There's so much actually to keep track of. There are always changes as well. That's probably more on the Apple part. You always have to adapt the software to make it compatible. So that's probably the downside of programming, that you have to. It doesn't feel that productive. You just have to maintain the code to make it support as many devices as possible. But yeah, that's probably the biggest hurdle.
Did you have any technical difficulties? I mean, did you find anything that you couldn't do, or something that you wanted to do?
Yeah, sure. It's like that's what like this. I told you this show that we had. We had the huge mixing desk, and we had this lexicon reverb, and like my reverb didn't sound like the lexicon reverb, and stuff like that. So yeah. How do they do that? There's a lot of reading and trying to learn DSP, which isn't quite possible with high school math, but it's you have to be interested in it. So there's a lot of learning.
There are a lot of things. Some things you couldn't get, but you'd always get it in the second version or the third version. That's the beauty of software as well.
Exactly. So you just learn from your mistakes and you study. I think I do that all the time now. I try to think about how to improve algorithms, and I read articles, and there's always something you can do to make algorithms better. So something
as expansive as Acoustica, it's a pretty massive program. How many people working on programming Acoustica?
Actually, I'm the only programmer, so I have a lot of help from freelancers and also for the administrational stuff. But I'm the only one that actually program Acoustica. So it's in that sense, it's a one-man show. But of course, I have help for other stuff.
How much time do you spend doing research and learning? I mean, it's a massive number of features in this program. How do you get to the point where you could master all those features and make them actually work and satisfy a customer?
I think that's something that grows gradually, and you learn and you try to make stuff better. And yeah, at one point, people have just discovered that it's the quality is on par or better than the competition, and that's when people start buying the software. But it's a long road, of course, and you have to spend a lot of time, just to think about these things and read what's available.
What are some of the sources for people who are interested in getting into this as well? Like, what are some of the sources that you would use to reference some of this information that you need to apply to the software?
Well, what I do at least is I have now through the company, of course, like memberships in IEEE and Audio Engineering Society, and a lot of articles are also available online for free. So those sources are a great value if you want to follow what's happening on the scientific or in the academic world. And there's a lot of nice stuff happening there. It's always a challenge to get the algorithms from the academic world to fit into something that's commercially viable, because they don't have these constraints with real-time latency and everything. So that's a big hurdle sometimes, but the actual information is usually there. So there's a lot of things to learn if you follow academia.
So how much time do you spend doing R&D? Like if you were to segment it in terms of a percentage of time?
I think maybe 20% of the time.
Before we go on, I want to know, where did the name Acon come from? Your company's called Acon Digital.
That's a funny story, actually. But the company was founded by my father a long time ago, and he is called Ariel, and he was doing consultancy. So that's Ariel Consultancy. So it's turned into Acon. And the reason why that turned into the Acon Digital as of today was because when I was in high school, I didn't have any ways to sell the software. And I didn't want to create a company with everything that goes with it, just to try to sell some shareware. So the company name, and my father was okay with it, of course. So that's where it came from. But that was the Acon was originally doing something completely different: engineering consultancy, checking security of offshore.
And this could be a very fitting tribute to your father, to continue the name of his company with all these excellent products.
I like that. Enjoyed that a lot, actually, to see Acon Digital grow. And even if it was something completely different, and still the company survived and is doing great today. So
I want to talk about one of your really signature products, Verberate. Tell me, where did the inspiration come from? How did that product come about? And how did you get interested in something as difficult as removing reverb from recordings?
Removing reverb was a really funny and tough challenge, actually, because it was thought of as impossible, and I just had this idea how you could do it. It was just something that came into my mind, and then I had to try it out, and it worked. Yeah, I knew it was a problem. It's a huge problem, especially in post-production, when you get the idea that you can do it, and you just have to follow that path, and so I did.
Wow, and how difficult? I mean, you say it's impossible, but you did it. But how difficult did you find it? I really want to get a sense as to how much trial and error and how much work and sweat that goes into making these algorithms. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rank the difficulty of coming up with that software?
I think the algorithm itself isn't really that difficult. You just have to come up with the idea, and there are other products doing the same thing. You just have to change your mindset, I think, just to ignore when people say it's impossible. You just have to try after all. And if you listen to people, you want to be able to develop anything new at all. So you just have to trust your instincts, and if you think that you have an idea that might work, then try it out, even though people say it's impossible.
No, that's amazing, and it works. Now, are you happy with the results of the Verberate?
I want it better, and I'm working on something to make it even better. So that's I'm constantly trying to improve on these algorithms, and we have stuff in the pipeline as well for that. So yeah, it's a continuous work, actually.
How do you know when it's done, or is it ever done, or is it always work in progress?
There's always work in progress, actually. You can always find something to improve, and especially when it picks up a bit, because then you have all the customers saying, "Oh, I'd like this feature, and I'd like this," and yeah. So there are so many ideas. You just have to pick the right ones, and have an intuition about what's actually possible to achieve in a reasonable amount of time.
Is this same technology that you applied for Verberate in some of the other rather also spectacular products or plugins that you have, like D-Win, D-Russell, D-Buzz? Are you applying some of the same technique and sort of mindset to those products as well?
Actually, those represent something new, because that's the first time that started with the Extract Dialogue tool. That's the first time that we ventured into deep learning, or artificial intelligence, as it's called in popular literature. So that's a new basis, and that's kind of interesting, because the algorithm remains, or the code remains more or less the same, but you train it differently, and you can use the same algorithm to solve many different problems. And that's a part where we're also working just to use the same framework to remove reverb, for example, and we have some promising results there as well. So that's something that we'll try to use for a lot of tasks.
For people who are not really aware, in the simplest way you can describe it, what do you mean by AI? How does that apply to audio? What do you mean by training?
It's a matter of finding patterns, actually, in the data. Artificial intelligence or deep learning is really good at finding patterns. Even though it's not exactly the same, it can kind of recognize a structure and, okay, see, this is a voice, and this is a typical noise. And that works kind of in a similar fashion that the neurons work in our brain. That's why it's called artificial intelligence, but it's not really intelligent in a normal sense. So that's highly controversial, the term artificial intelligence, at least for software like that. But deep learning is a pretty good description of what's happening. And it's called deep learning because it consists of many layers with these neurons, many stacks. The more layers you have, the deeper you call the network, and hence the term deep learning. And one of the challenges we had with deep learning was actually to get this possible with a fairly reasonable latency, because these algorithms are usually from image processing, and they have of course the whole image present and don't need to care about latency. But in audio, it's time continuous, so you have to get some results out there before too many seconds have passed. So that was a challenge, and that's why we had to rewrite the whole a completely new what's called an inference library. So it takes these deep learning models, and which is just basically a huge set of numbers, and take these coefficients or numbers and turn them into the algorithm that you want to apply. And that was a challenge to develop that part, but that's already done. And then the training is actually done using tools that are available from Google has offer tools that are for free that you can use to train these neural networks. So that's what we're using there, and then you have to design these models so that it's as suitable as possible for the task you want to achieve.
Is there a difference between a neural network and artificial intelligence, or is it pretty much the same thing?
I would say when it comes to deep learning, it has to have a certain depth to it, obviously, but otherwise I think you'll hear all different usages of these words, and artificial intelligence is probably the least correct.
Now, what do you see down the road as some of the more promising benefits of applying AI or deep learning to audio?
I think when it comes to also noise reduction and stem separation and all these kind of tasks. So basically what you call source separation. You have two different sources that are mixed together and you want to split them apart. If that's different instruments or if that's noise and then voice or noise or reverb or whatever, all those tasks are really interesting to explore with deep learning.
So do you have any future products that you would employ some of this technology inside of?
Yes, we will definitely launch some further plugins and also updates to existing plugins with this technology. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the pipeline.
The other area that I want to talk about a little bit is the whole immersive sort of world that's emerging in front of us. You've got some products, so you have Verberate Immersive. How is that different from the regular Verberate?
Actually quite hard to create a good sounding surround or immersive reverb, because you have to be really careful. Some of these standard algorithms that work pretty well in stereo, they collapse totally when you try to use it in the surround or immersive setup, because you don't get really these decorrelated channels that you want to have. So when you mix it together, you get these strange cancelling effects that you don't want to have. So it's definitely more challenging to develop an immersive reverb. And something that I did together with a friend of mine that works at the post-production studio here in Oslo. It's really great. Also making doing sound design for big movies. He had a lot of ideas on how to make this the reverb more usable for post-production, and so that you can automate all these movements that they have in a movie. If you can imagine sound coming out through a door and you want to have some reverb on it, it's supposed to come out like on a specific spot on the silver screen. Audio should be according to what you see, and that's really tricky with normal automation. That's tricky to achieve. They have to spend quite a lot of time just to make that happen, if they even bothered. So with the Verberate Immersive, you have these automatable panners. So you just move the panners around, and when you then record the automation data, then you can follow those movements much easier than it used to be. So these post-production houses, it's been a game changer. That's what they say, at least.
Now, you talked briefly about the extract dialogue. Tell me about that product, because I think it's a very interesting product. Maybe you can explain to our listeners.
Yeah, so it was the first product actually based on this deep learning technology, and it separates voice from basically every kind of noise that we could come up with. So we have a huge training set of different noise sources, buzz, humming, rustle, wind noise. There's a huge database of those, and on the other hand, a huge database of recorded high-quality voice. And then we create a training set that's contain the mixture of those and try to separate it again. And that's the result is then extract dialogue. It's a plugin then that separates dialogue from basically all standard noise sources.
One other area which I thought you released this in Acoustica a few years back, or maybe about a year ago, was this whole source separation. How do you train that?
Here at Acon, that's something available in an open source project called the Spleeter. And that was released by a company called Deezer streaming servers. And those models were trained on a really gigantic training set. And that's a big hurdle, because you have to have music recorded in stems, nicely laid out to do this training. And you need like an immense amount of songs recorded. So that's something we don't have at hand. So and Deezer, they were kind enough to release these pre-trained models as open source. So those are being used by a lot of different software products now, like Acoustica does it, like Tracker Layers and the Isotope in the RX all use the same models. At least that's what's stated on if you go to the GitHub page for this project. So a lot of commercial applications that have started to use these models.
You've got several products, quite a few products. You are a pretty serious software company, and you are in Norway. What is it like having a software company in Norway? Do you think in which ways do you consider that to be a positive, and which ways do you think it might be a hindrance Explain a little bit about your position and where you are physically in the world.
I think it's Norway is a stable country. Things are working, so that's of course really, unfortunately there are many other countries where you can't say the same. So I'm really, I have to be grateful that you have that opportunity to live in a country that simply works. In terms of marketing, I'm not really sure anymore. I think earlier it was probably more important to be in a specific country. I think it was important to be in the US or Canada and to have direct access to the North American market. But now it's thanks to you guys as well. It's much easier to get to those markets, and I don't think it's that important anymore. So I don't really see any major drawbacks about being in Norway.
Do you ever collaborate with any other companies in Norway or perhaps Scandinavia or Germany?
Yes, I do. Especially now for the training data for this deep learning project, I've been collaborating with a company called Soundly, the sound effects library. They also situated here in Oslo. That's been really, really exciting. And also just collaborating with users, as I said, like in mastering or post-production houses. That's really, really interesting. And the network is growing, so I have a lot of people that I use for advice, because as a developer, you can't really assume what the user really wants, but it's really good to have the feedback from the guys that are using the software on a daily basis.
Do you have any time to make music or use any of your own products?
I do play for fun, yeah, so I do have time for that, but I don't use my own products that much. I use, if I do some music, I have my Logic here, and I do some projects there, and I use my own reverbs and EQs and stuff, of course, but I don't have that much time for it, sadly.
Now you look back, how long has Acon Digital been around?
My father was back in 1987, I think, so it's a really long time, but I started selling my software then in 94. Yeah, so still a long time.
What are some of the things you wish you knew then that you know now?
There's a lot of things, actually. A lot of things when it comes to how to market the software and how to spread the software. I think I was way too obsessed with trying to sell the software at a high price in the beginning. It would have been much better just to get the software spread out and have people using it, and then come with new features and increase the price. Yeah, that's basically what if you see nowadays with this, all the free stuff you get on the internet. Yeah, you just have to get things out there, and then you can, if you have a sufficiently large user base, and you can monetize it somehow anyway. So I think I would appreciate it to know that back then.
It sounds like you wear a lot of hats. You're involved in the marketing and design, the GUI, all of that stuff?
Yes, I'm very much involved in all that stuff, and I make the decisions when it comes to marketing and everything. So yeah, that's all in my hands still.
You're part of IMSTA FESTA this year. Tell me what you think and what your impressions are of what IMSTA is trying to do.
I'm really happy to see that there's something like IMSTA to try to push software and make sure that people realize actually software is something you have to pay for. That's a great thing that you're doing.
For people that are watching this, and I think you're a very inspirational figure, because you're sort of a person that takes on a task, really commits and executes and releases and sees the gratification of people enjoying what you've created. And there are a few people watching right now who have the same kind of quality and ideas in their head. What's your advice to those people that are, they've got ideas and they almost don't know where to start? What's your advice, Stian?
Just follow your instincts, and if you feel that you have a great idea, then just also don't listen to what others says, because you'll hear a lot of opinions out there. If you feel that you have a good idea and you can make a product out of it, then go for it and just try to learn everything that's needed and go through it. And there's a lot of patience required, but it is definitely worth it in the end. So don't let anybody else tell you what to do. Follow your dreams.
I mean, how important is it, you think, to go and study computer science, or you kind of just throw in? I mean, is it you go and spend 4 years learning it, or you just kind of start?
I'm not even sure if you have to study. If the interest, you can do a great deal by self-studying. And basically, if you listen to my story, Acoustica was out there before I went to the university. So you don't really have to study to program. That's mostly self-study anyway. But what they teach you at the university will be it's definitely great stuff, but it's more in terms of how to think and how to approach problems, not so much the practical stuff. It depends on what kind of person you are. If you are able to learn things by yourself and have the motivation to do so, then I don't think you really have to study. And you see a lot of examples of that also. If you look at software developers, they aren't all computer scientists. It's definitely possible.
I believe Logic, he was a doctor. I believe Charlie Steinberg was a guitar player. Wolfgang Kundras, he was a juggler in a circus, and these are some of the the brightest minds in the whole music software software world. So where do you go from here now, Stian? What's next for you, and what's next for Acon Digital?
Well, we could continue to develop. Acoustica is a flagship product, so we'll invest a lot of that and still have lots of features to implement into version 7, even before we go to 8. And those features will be free for customers that have 7 already. So there's a lot of things planned there. And on this, as a side project, I'll work together, continue the project that I had with this that I mentioned with the developers from Soundly, and we will try to go and see if there's a broader market for the deep learning products that we have. Not so much audio post-production then, but like real-time communication and those markets. So that's something we are exploring as well.
Anything surprising about Acon Digital people might not know?
I've had offices for like this for a very short time. So in 2013, when it was still as I started to pick up with the plugin development, I was actually developing in my bedroom, and every time I had something like this with a video conference, I had to try to hide the bed so that people couldn't see it. Yeah, that's probably surprising. I think at that time people thought it would be a bigger company than it really was. So yeah, probably the most surprising.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get the impression that most of the software companies, because of the number of products and because of the complexity of it, there must be 40 or 50 programmers working on these projects. And I'm glad that they it's revealed here that one person can do all of this. But then there are other companies that have 400 people, and they seem to produce almost the same amount as you. I mean, how is that possible?
I think software development is really... I don't think that all of those 400 people are in software development. That's the first thing. You can put a lot of people into marketing, and that's a completely different approach. Like Acon Digital has been self-founded. There's not a dollar of money invested from the outside. And if you want to do that approach, you have to gradually build everything up from scratch, and you have to make products first, and then invest in marketing. That's just a different approach. And if you think the idea is big enough and you want to and hit the market with a big bang, then you obviously have to have a much higher amount of people. And then there's the thing with software projects that if you put it doesn't really scale linearly. So if it's not like 10 people develop 10 times as fast as one developer. It's like there's a trade-off there. So you can't put too many people onto your project. And there's even a saying when you're in project management that if you have a delayed project, the worst thing you can do is put more developers into it. So yeah, you have to be careful. And that's probably why you see that these really also some of the companies that you mentioned, they probably have all really extensive products and support for all kind of hardware. And then you have to have all these people to support it.
So thank you. Anything else that you think we should cover that we have not?
No, thanks for the interview and giving me the chance to speak with you. It was a great experience.
All right, well, thank you so much, man. I know it's late over there. It's been a pleasure talking to you. You make phenomenal products. I think people should really check out Acoustica. Acoustica is the Swiss Army knife for audio. It really belongs in every studio. It doesn't matter what DAW you're using. The best way to clean up your audio is literally just you open it in Acoustica, clean it up. You have spectral editing. You got great restoration tools, and of course, razor sharp editing. I can't say enough. I personally use it myself, and a lot of people I work with use it. So congratulations on making such a phenomenal product. I've had the opportunity as well to demonstrate some of your products, the Verberate in particular. That's just an incredible product, especially the new feature you have with the different ways you could take out the ambience, and and I think your whole immersive play sounds phenomenal. The Verberate Immersive sounds really, really amazing. So you're doing some great jobs, and we're hoping that we could pile on some awards for you in the next couple of years, because I think you definitely deserve some additional attention. So why don't you speak right into the universe? What kind of awards you want to win in the next 5 years, Stian? Come on, speak to the universe right up there.
Well, first of all, I have to say thank you for all those kind words, and it's great to hear that, to have you there, and to hear that from you. And in terms of awards, well, the tech award, yes. Well, if we're on shit, let's say the Grammy and technical Grammy.
Keep up the good work. It's a real pleasure for us to be working together. So thank you so much, and take care, and have a good evening.
Thank you very much too, and likewise, have a nice evening, and take care.
All right.
Okay. Bye.
Peace out.